I'm
before we
Bob
jump into
Sweeney.
things?
I'm a financial advisor with Opus One, OPESONE Advisors. We're right here in Addison, right on the corner of Arapahoe and the Tollway. You might know the three tall silver buildings. We're in the one with Zurich on the top.
Okay.
And I've been in this group for 10 years. I started out as a stockbroker over 40 years ago, and that was a interesting experience being a Montana boy, getting thrust into Wall Street, and spent a lot of time in New York learning the business. And it's been about 20 years down in Houston, in the investment world, strictly as a portfolio manager for a number of different companies. E.F. Hutton, Shearson Lehman, Smith Barney. Most of the time was with A.G. Edwards back in the day. And then I married Pam, whom you know, and moved up here in the late 90s and decided that the market had a little bit of irrational exuberance, as Greenspan called it. And I thought that maybe it'd be better to broaden my horizons and take a look at other options as far as holistic financial planning, which included things like life insurance, disability, long-term care, but also in the business space, it also included things like buy-sell agreements and key man insurance and disability buyout, all those types of things that really attracted me because I have a pretty strong business clientele. And also the one aspect that really appealed to me with doing the holistic financial planning is that it wasn't contingent upon things I could not control. And that's where I think a lot of people have misrepresented themselves as far as the market and investments go. A lot of it's out of our control on a day-to-day basis, certainly. Now, we can structure portfolios that have certain amounts of risk associated with them, certain amounts of volatility. We can identify money managers that beat the market, that have what we call alpha or Sharpe ratios, those types of things in portfolios that they do better than the market as a whole. But for the most part, we're just along for the ride, and that's part of what I do is, and I'm part of what you do, Ben, is more psychological counseling, more behavioral science than it is, actuarial science. You may, and I'm really glad to be on with you because I know that you're, a professional and a guy of integrity, but also that you incorporated, I know that you've incorporated a lot of investment properties and things like that into portfolios, which I think are a very, very nice complement to investment portfolios. I think you can have both. And but for a Montana boy that hitchhiked here with $13 in his pocket, it's been a long ride for the last 40 plus years, and it's really been a blessing. Everything in my life has been a blessing, but the real blessing has been to find my wife Pam and to have friends like you, and we've had a good few years here, starting to feel a few aches and pains, but I'm still playing.
Yes, you are. Yeah, and you know what? Still playing is a great transition into, because I told you I'll throw you a softball or two before I hit you with a
Sure.
fastball. So here's the softball. So again, most folks don't know that you were a football player. Tell us
Yep.
what. Tell us where.
I played for Air Force and then transferred out to Utah.
There you go.
And I was a fullback, and I came to realize that the college guys a lot faster than me, kind of like you, Ben.
Yeah.
I ran into a lot of benbakers, and I couldn't buck them because I couldn't catch them.
Yeah.
And probably the NFL isn't in my future, so that's when I picked up my bags and headed to Texas. And a guy I played ball with at the academy got me grounded there in Austin and finished up there. He he was very much an Austinite, very much a Texan. And I just kind of adopted the state and married. My first wife was from Alice, Texas, down in the
Oh,
valley. And she thought you needed a passport to leave Texas. So we pretty much stuck here. And
uh,
then when I remarried in 1998, we were blessed with a child. And I relocated to Dallas with my current wife of 27 years, Pam. And it's
and she's a prize. She is a real jewel. I'll tell you that she is. So hopefully she'll hear this because I'm sincere in that because she is. So let me ask you this. So what's um what's one lesson? What's one lesson that you learned um, from the football field that most people don't really realize applies directly to building wealth?
consistent daily discipline, doing the small things every day. Uh, I've told my children, I say, if you commit yourself to just doing the simple things every day, you'll have no problems. And it's as easy as just saying, save 15. I want them to be what we call a world-class saver. Save 15 to 20% of your income, and you'll be okay. I'm not telling you where to put it or anything else. You can put it in rental houses, you can put it in IRAs, you can put it in just regular brokerage. I'm not big on speculative investing until you got a pretty good nest egg. I just had a conversation with some folks that they were talking about Bitcoin being an alternative to cash. And I said, well, if you bought Bitcoin last September at $125,000 and it's now $62,000, you lost 50%. That ain't cash. That's speculation. You know? So it's, I'm enjoying the new technology and AI and all this analysis that gives people a working knowledge of markets and such. But it's really experience and wisdom we gain through years of making mistakes,
Yes,
regardless of the topic we're talking about. Wisdom is knowledge with mistakes.
yes,
And all you can get on the internet is knowledge.
yes,
You don't get wisdom.
right.
And I'd say the same thing for your industry and for your business, Ben, is they can't get somebody, that's only been around when the market's appreciating to understand that they've got to be prepared for the ups and downs of the real estate market, just like the equity market.
Right.
And we've got to make that commitment and have the discipline to stay with it long term. It's challenging. I don't know if this is accurate or not, but it seems like people have gravitated, particularly recently, to instant gratification. You know,
100%.
and it's a challenge to get them to back off from that and say, Bob, I want you to buy me the next NVIDIA.
Mhm.
Well, if I knew what the next NVIDIA would be, it would be too expensive to buy, right?
Yep.
Because it just doesn't work that way. Now, once in a while, I've been fortunate to have some good research and find some good companies. Back when I was, particularly when I was a portfolio manager, uh, stockbroker.
Mhm.
Now I'm more disciplined and more diversified. And that diversification can appear in many different ways. And one of the diversifications that I think is extremely important, that really the wisdom of decades of experience has taught me, you got to protect what you got. You got to protect your income, you got to protect your life, you got to protect your assets. Business owners, if all your money's tied up in the business and the business, I see this a lot in restaurants, right? The restaurant's going really well, so they add on restaurants and they get big and popular. Then it starts sliding a little bit. So
Mhm.
they start dumping their money into it. They keep sliding. And then after the end of 10 years, it's all gone.
Right.
They need to carve out that 15 or 20% every year that's not contingent upon the restaurant doing well. And also, there's things such as liabilities that business owners run into all the time, whether it's lawsuits or medical liabilities or whatever the case may be, that they need to detach a portion of their net worth into vehicles that are sheltered from creditors and liabilities so that can't be touched. So there's a lot more that goes into it now that I've been in the business a long time, that I see we don't really take a back door to growth at all, because certainty is a big part of what we're trying to accomplish. And going down the road, I think that way too many people are interested in getting advice for accumulation, say for retirement, but they don't understand the distribution side of it. And I've started working diligently to carve out a portion of a client's assets to generate a guaranteed income stream, like a pension,
Mm-hmm.
so that they don't have to worry about the daily costs of living, the food, shelter, clothing, all that stuff. That's all taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
I have clients that maybe one works for the county, one's maybe a teacher, both have pensions. They might, they get a nice pension. But I've also got another guy with, say, 4 or 5 million in his 401k. Which feels richer? It's actually the pension people that have a much more comfortable retirement, because every time the market goes down 10 or 20%, that guy's saying, oh my goodness, I've lost $400,000. I've got to pull in, I can't enjoy my retirement.
Mm-hmm.
So having a combination of those two things, a guaranteed income at retirement, and also some good assets that you can spend to enjoy retirement, are two of the things I focus on now. And incorporating that with business owners is even more challenging.
Mm-hmm. That's why I
Because
was
a
so
business,
excited to have you on today, because I think it's sometimes the missing piece. Because as I look, it's interesting. There's about 3 or 4 of us that are basically retirement age, not really telling on my best buddy Steve or Scott there. Kenneth, I think Kenneth is getting close, but so again, that's why I'm excited to have you on, because I think, and I will tell you, if you have questions, I see even some young people here. Uh, Feel free to reach out to Bob, because we can only cover. Oh, I hear some echo, but we can only cover so much
yeah.
in this last, 15, 20 minutes. But I know how service oriented you are. And I know that you're here to help answer questions and educate. And with that being said, there's a mistake that most successful people make uh, time and time again, and it's not because of a lack of knowledge. It's because we're human. What is that? What is that mistake that successful people make time and time again in your industry?
I think it's lack of diversification.
Okay.
They say, this is what I know,
Yes.
and this is what I feel comfortable with. And there's nothing wrong with that
Hmm.
by any stretch. But as I said in my restaurant analogy, uh, most business owners say, I'm going to invest in my business. This is what I know. But if I was putting together a portfolio and I said, well, I found this one micro stock that I think is really great, let's put all our money in that. That wouldn't make sense, right? Well, the same thing's true with business. And businesses, as you know, whether you're Trammell Crow or whether you're just starting out in the real estate business, it goes up and down, as Trammell Crow found out, right? The isolating assets in different buckets is extremely important, particularly when you get into retirement. Then we start talking about taxes and how much of an impact that can have as well. The big hot thing nowadays is Roth conversions. Convert your IRAs to Roth. And there's a lot of good sense to that. I have to look at each case individually, though, because I'm a 1099 also, right? I'm self-employed, although I work for a company. The the additional FICA and the additional taxes we pay as self-employed kind of bump us up into a little bit higher bracket, so that deduction is a little bit more attractive. But once you get into, say, 65 and older, even if you're not retired, especially if you're not retired, then you've got some serious issues with paying for Medicare, because you're going to get jacked up on the IRMA, the Part B and the Part D prescription drugs, to where you might be paying as much as $12,000 a year for insurance. When you think Medicare is free, it ain't free.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we have some disposable income that's, say, in a Roth, then we can utilize that income while we're still working if we want additional dollars. I'm speaking about if you kind of pare down on your work, not just retire outright. If you've got, I want you to have three buckets. One's tax-free, one's taxable, and one's tax sheltered. Taxable would be capital gains, like a brokerage account, or real estate, because you pay capital gains on that when you sell it. The income from that can also be somewhat sheltered by depreciation, all the things that we do with real estate. I'm not a big fan of accelerated depreciation, but because I've had some recapture problems in the past. But so that would be the partially taxed, the tax advantage, but still taxed, where you get a capital gains treatment. Then you've got fully taxed, which is anything from your IRAs, anything from your pension, anything from Social Security is going to be taxed. Now there's a provision for making it less tax, but for most of us watching this, I don't think that would be applicable as far as Social Security. Most of us are going to pay 85% of that income as taxable. But
Okay.
and then the tax-free is the Roth, or it could be cash value of life insurance. There are some strategies you can utilize. I incorporate sometimes when I have single, particularly females that are older, that are maybe 10 years away from retirement, I might get a whole life policy that is just a 10-pay that has a long-term care rider, so that at the end of that 10 years, they've got as much cash value as they've put in, but they've also got $200,000 or $300,000 for long-term care if that should come up. So it gives them a nice balance with no real net cost other than opportunity cost.
Well, I love that, because I almost wanted to finish there, because I think a few of us who are mature, I think the long-term care is something that could wipe out finances like that.
Yeah.
Having going through it currently with my parents, now my dad, who's still still alive, but so hopefully I can keep 1 minute for that. So I wanted to ask you this, because you've helped people build wealth, retire comfortably, transfer assets from, maybe the future generation. So what's the difference between an inheritance and leaving a legacy?
I think that leaving a legacy is really more about thinking through what the beneficiaries are going to be doing with that money. And also, it also involves a real understanding of their own personalities and lifestyles. An inheritance is just money that comes once you die, right? There's no strings attached. There's nothing. You get a nice step up in basis, unless it's an IRA, then you don't get that, or an annuity. You don't get step up in basis, which is a real strong consideration on that. But if you can thoughtfully put together the plan to address any issues that maybe you have a child that's had some issues with alcohol and drugs, or maybe you've got a special needs child, or maybe you've got grandchildren that you want to bypass the kids because they're doing fine, bypass them and leave to the grandkids. It's a little more challenging with IRAs and stuff nowadays because that has to be distributed in 10 years. But for spousal transfers, that's unlimited. But as far as passing it on to future generations and the legacy that you leave, I think, is more intangible than tangible. And by that, I mean something that I know that's in your heart, Ben, is leaving a legacy of goodwill and trying to do things for other people at maybe leave some money to a particular uh, nonprofit organization and have them be the trustee of that amount to make them be involved in something other than themselves,
Right.
right? I think that's a really nice legacy to leave. That's just one example.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that. So you've learned so much, Bob, in the 40 plus years you've done this. Give me one piece of advice that, as you look back, that you would tell your 20 or 25-year-old self. What's one piece of advice, especially about money?
I go back to what I initially said. If you save 15 or 20%, 15 to 20% of your income, you'll be okay.
Okay.
And don't mess with it. Just invest it, forget it, get a diversified portfolio. You can add real estate, those types of things as well. But get something long term. Don't speculate. You're not going to get rich quick. The people that get rich quick get broke quick, for the most part. For the
Yes.
most
Okay.
part.
That'll probably show up on our reel now. So Destiny, be mindful of that. So get rich quick, get broke quick. I like it. So um, here's a nice transition right into what's the one thing? What's the one thing that uh, because I had to write this one down. Uh, Most people, what's the one thing they discover about themselves? Okay, that after they've achieved, this financial freedom that they've been striving for decades, what's the one thing that they discover about themselves when they finally reach that finish line or that destination?
I think that most thoughtful people come to realize that happiness in retirement or any other time for that matter isn't about stuff. It's not about things. It's not about what you drive, where you live, any of those things. It's about the relationships that you have and the family and friends that you have and the things that you leave behind. If you leave behind money, that's great. But if you leave behind someone feeling better about themselves or getting, like we did when we met at the Gateway thing, that lady that spoke, she was the first of her generation to go to college. And now she's been working for the Dallas Cowboys IT department for 7 years. And she was living in a homeless shelter.
Mhm.
That kind of impact is multi-generational, whereas a monetary inheritance might be gone in 10 years.
Indeed. And it will be. And so, Bob, I think I know you so well that I designed that question because I knew that you would respond that way. Because I think, well, I believe that you and I share the same passion, same heart.
Yes.
And this is a beautiful follow-up. Here you go. Okay. Give me one sentence. Okay. Give me one sentence that you would hope your friends or clients would say that Bob Sweeney helped them to achieve.
I'll just tell you what one lady that I've had as a client for 20 years told me. She was a type A personality, mean, very, very to the point, never smiled, just tough, tough, tough. And, we'd make some adjustments every 5 or 6 years. We do. I'm not a micromanager of portfolios. I'm not a micromanager of client relationships. I'm always there for them, but I put people in things expecting they're going to stick with it. So she got ready to retire. She's 69, and we're on a Zoom call because she moved up to Oklahoma. And I says, okay, Donna, we've got X number of dollars committed to guaranteed income. You're going to have X number of dollars for guaranteed income that you can never outlive. So you'll never have to worry about running out of money. Plus, you've also got this big chunk of money over here that's very tax favored that you can enjoy. You can take cruises, you can go to Europe, you can do whatever you want, and enjoy your retirement. But there's absolutely nothing you need to do uh, past this point. And you're taken care of for the rest of your life. And she actually started crying. She said, I'm so glad I met you 20 years ago. And that made my career.
Mhm.
You know, it really did. It really made me feel good because this is a woman that was on her own, no kids, no husband, and had done really well work-wise, very professional, but she really didn't have anybody she could lean on and trust, you
Right.
know, for the long haul. And I just feel so blessed that she is part of my life and has been part of my life that I think I made a difference, you know.
You do. And you have.
Yeah.
And you have. It's so funny. You said, she she didn't really have anybody to lean on, and you were there. And so that's been on my business card for the last 30 plus years, is because I love that responsibility. It says I'm the one to lean on. And for me, it's uh, I want to earn your trust, and you can count on me. And I think you and I are old school enough that I don't necessarily need a piece of paper between you and I. Because if I shake your hand and I grip it tightly, I'm going to look you in the eye. And that's, for me, that's the kind of commitment and trust that I need right now. Um, Now let's go to work. So, yeah. Now, because Bob, we've got 5 minutes. Is there something else you'd love to share with us that we're not aware of or that we don't know, that we should know?
Well, I think we've covered quite a bit. You know,
Yes.
I haven't really gone into, you know, the business owner side of it as
Hmm.
far as what's available out there and as far as business planning. But I think it's important that if any business owner has partners, that they'd have to take a look at that business valuation every year. And one of the things that I do, and this is for free because of my seniority, I guess, I have a whole stable of CPAs and attorneys and CFAs, certified financial analysts, that can look at wills, trusts, buy-sell agreements, deferred comp plans, all of those things for free, and see if
Nice.
there's anything, see
We
if you'll,
like free. We like free.
yeah, we like free, but I use them
Yeah.
a lot for business valuation. Now, this
Okay.
is an informal valuation, of course,
Yes.
because it wouldn't necessarily be an IRS valuation, but it certainly gives us an idea of how much we're worth. How much is our business worth? And that's where somebody that owns a business really, oftentimes I see them dropping the ball because they don't really know what they've got. They may think they have more than they have, or they may think that it's not doing quite as well as it really is. Uh, for example, I had one fellow that I was doing a valuation. He thought it was a pretty high number. And we did all the number crunching and came to understand that he had three major clients. Most of, and the certainty of them staying if he left was not very good.
Hmm.
So what was his business really worth with him gone? And it's just an example that it's an art more than a science.
Indeed. Indeed. Well, again, I'm going to suggest that this chat today, what I expect is that it will leave you in curiosity. And just know that this is a gentleman that you can reach out to. Um, if you need to follow up with me, Destiny will probably throw his number in the chat, because here's someone that you can trust. And trust is what we do. Everyone on this call, I believe, we're the basis of who we are and what we do is about trust. And you can count on this gentleman.